Hello.
Hello.
Bella.
Hey, Cassie and everyone. I'm dealing with some hurricane related emergency response stuff. So, and I kind of want to hear what's going on tonight, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to give the meeting my full attention. I guess I'd like your opinion on whether I could be logged in, but not voting tonight, or whether I should just withdraw and not attend. Because I just don't be able to give it my full attention.
Question. I don't know, Melissa, I don't know if this is something you guys have ever done in the past. It's
No.
Nope,
Nope, hasn't really come up before. One of my thoughts is if we have a quorum without Commissioner Buttrick, then I think it makes it easier. But also, I guess, Cassie, I don't know. I think it would work to abstain from votes if you don't feel that you've been able to. If any commission member doesn't feel they've been adequately prepared, and I would just say, does it look like we have a quorum absent Commissioner Buttrick?
yeah, and I know Julie was saying that she wasn't sure if her internet was gonna be strong enough to join, and Commissioner Teffer is not available tonight. She gave me advance notice, so I don't know. It doesn't look like Julie's here yet, so those are the only two people who are still not here. So otherwise, we have 1, 2, 3.
We have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now, I don't want to put anybody in a position that I would like to hear what's going on, but I am not going to be able to focus on the meeting. So I will turn my video off and I'll listen in a little bit. But if somebody needs something like from me, holler my name and.
And here comes Julie right now, so it might have her too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
So
do
I guess.
that.
Okay. So with that, it is 6:02. So Cassie, are we all set here?
Yep, I think we're good to go.
Great. All right, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as extended on June 15th, 2021, with the governor's signing of Senate Bill number 2475, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found below. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the meeting ends abruptly, the meeting will not be restarted and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. All right, I will now call to order the August 23rd, 2021 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items?
No, I haven't received any, but I do have a request to take a few items out of agenda order just to accommodate the people that are here. The first one would be item 7L, I believe, for the school project, 200 Park Street.
Okay. Is there another? What are the others?
The next one would be, I want to say, oh my gosh, I don't know. It's the last item for 50 Florence Road for the solar project would be the next one.
Okay.
And then after that, from general business, I have the 3250 Payson preliminary review.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to take in this order items 7L, 7U, and 8B out of agenda order?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. August?
Aye.
Yusa?
Aye.
Buttrick? Abstain? Ryan?
Aye.
Teffer absent. Whittemore?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so item 7L, compliance updates. Easthampton School Committee, Mass DEP file number 151305 for construction of a new school building with associated parking, driveway, utility, stormwater system, track and field facility, site amenities, and landscaping at 200 Park Street, map 157, lot 83. Who is here to speak for this?
Hi, this is Joel Kent with Fontaine Brothers. There are a number of people involved with the project on the call. Dave Fontaine, owner of Fontaine Brothers, Mike Sarnelli, our site superintendent, and David Boucher, the city's representative on site. But I will, I guess, take the lead on talking.
Thank you.
So,
Kathy?
no,
Thank you.
okay.
No, please do. Thank you.
All right.
Please present.
So we understand that there was potentially a complaint received about erosion controls on the site sometime over the weekend. I'm not sure specifically what the complaint was or what storm it pertained to, but I do know that we were out there with Cassie today. We had a walk, and there were a couple of issues that were presented related to the placement of a turbidity curtain that we've been having to maintain pretty periodically throughout the project, and potentially shoring up some erosion controls at a stockpile. So I guess in my opinion, I mean, we've been on the site for 20 months now, and it's a big project, and it's gone well. I've been here in front of the commission at least one other time prior, but I wanted to get on the meeting and make sure we express that whatever we can do, we will do without hesitation, and that's why we're here. We just wanted to hear what the concerns were and offer to do whatever we can do to address them.
Thank you. Cassie, can you address the concerns that were raised to the commission?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a number of rain events essentially since last week, and I think it started on Thursday, and then obviously on Sunday we had some good rain, but the bigger one I think was on Thursday, and then obviously raining again today. So the notification that I had gotten from an abutter was sent to me on Friday, with a number of videos showing concerns about turbid water leaving the site, or just kind of accumulating on site and potentially making it into stormwater structures slash leaving the site. And that was elevated to DEP, and DEP, had concerns that silt fencing and straw wattles potentially aren't sufficient to deal with that type of silty material, and the soils are very fine there. And so the question became, is there silty water leaving the site? Sometimes the turbidity curtain can get overtopped, and so in that instance, it's probably the case. There's really two areas that are of the main concern, and one is where the turbidity curtain is, and then the other is where that catch basin is, kind of on the south front of the site. So I looked at both those areas today, as well as the rear bioretention basin, but that one looked good to go. And so the turbidity curtain seems like it's good where it is, as long as it can be kept up and high up and not get overwhelmed and allow anything to overtop it. It does seem to work to keep the turbid waters inside the site, and then like it settles there. But the other area to the south where the catch basin is, I know that the catch basin is explained to me that there's been a number of instances where it's been cut and they don't know like who has been cutting it, or maybe it's broken. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, could you back up where what has been cut?
The catch basin, sorry, not the catch basin itself, the sack in the catch basin, excuse me. And maybe it was because it was getting, laden and then it was causing water backup. I'm not really sure what the history of that is, but there is a sack there, but it seems like periodically turbid water may have been leaving through that outlet. And so, DEP was concerned, and it was their, suggestion that potentially the commission should consider an enforcement order as a mechanism to try to get a third party erosion control specialist to come and either review the site and present either, a review of the actions that are being taken, and then potentially have additional actions that they suggest. Trying to think what else. In the past there was issues in the contracting team did a lot to increase erosion controls on site and has been very communicative throughout the whole process. So I want to make note of that. And then I think at this stage it's up to the commission. I can share some of the pictures. One of the documents that I sent you guys has links to some of the videos that were sent to me for the original complaint. I don't know how easily we'd be able to share the videos. I can try. I also have pictures from today's site visit that I can show as well.
Thank
If
you.
I
So
could
I
just-
guess
Oh, I'm sorry.
please. No, if you could speak, that's fine.
In regards to the turbidity curtain, that's something that wasn't really envisioned in our SWIP plan or anything like that. It was kind of one of those additional measures that we took on when there were concerns. And it is something that we know has needed constant maintenance, to the point that on Sunday night at 5 o'clock in the middle of the tropical storm, we had a crew out there in the brook adjusting it to make sure it was doing what it needed to be doing. It's something we've been proactive in maintaining and trying to keep doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then, if we're talking about one silt sack in a catch basin that's at the existing school's parking lot, we have been trying to do that. What happens, I think, is that it slows down the movement of water so much that the existing school's lot gets full, and then somebody either cuts the curtain or cuts the silt sack or something to that effect. We've replaced it now very regularly. We check it like weekly now, just because we know that that's happened in the past. I think we continue to do and try to be as proactive as possible with these. I mean, if those are the two particular issues, those are two that we're very much on top of. And I know I did see a video last week. I thought this might be more related to the tropical storm or something to that effect, but I did see that video that you shared with me last week. And those are two concerns that we were aware of, and we've certainly buttoned up before the hurricane, and we're even out there during the hurricane dealing with them. Of our own accord, we just knew that we had to be out there. And I know I sent you, Cassie, an update during the storm just to let you know what we were doing and how it was going.
Okay. So I guess one question that comes to mind is, are there any measures or actions that could be taken up gradient of these 2 points to further intercept or treat runoff before it gets to kind of the final discharge point?
Yes, and we have done a ton. I know we've stabilized probably 75% in terms of seeding, and the rest of that seeding of the disturbed area is going to be completed this fall. So we have to be substantially complete by November 1st. So we are actively eliminating all those areas that are disturbed soil by spraying them, getting them in final condition, loamed and seeded. And that work, now that we're past kind of August 15th, can kind of ramp up even more. I know we have a stockpile that we're actively adding to right now that we do need to get sprayed once we can get it added up. So that's certainly on our radar as two very concrete ways to control what's getting to the edges of the site.
Okay, so two more questions then. You said 75% of the site has been stabilized with seeding. Has any of that seed germinated? So are we talking stabilized and revegetated, or just the
The
first step of loaming and
primary
seeding?
area of concern on my part is there's a large slope area that goes from what'll be the basketball courts to the new parking lot for the school. And that area has been sprayed now and is very new in terms of its germination. So I'm sure I'm still getting some runoff, and we've had wattles down at the end of that slope and all, but once that takes, I'm going to be in a lot better shape.
And then I guess another question relative to the silt sack that I'm assuming it's obviously in an unsecure area of the site. If no one from Fontaine Brothers has been modifying it, damaging it so that it drains faster but doesn't filter as effectively, how often is that being monitored for sediment, silt accumulation and function?
After every rain event, for sure. It's interesting. It's actually an existing catch basin that's in the existing school's parking lot, which normally wouldn't be our disturbed area, but we do have a stockpile in that area, so it's now of our concern. So we've also focused on we added an additional row of wattles and silt fencing around that stockpile. And that's the one I was mentioning that we just need to finish topping off, and we can spray again.
So is the majority of the runoff, the soil being transported toward that catch basin, was it from the stockpile, or is it just from the ground surface?
The ground surface is very loosely paved. It's different pavement surfaces. There's gravel, there's sand, there's clay. That condition of that parking lot is I think one of the reasons we're over there working on that school. But yeah, we have a stockpile there, so it's our purview now.
I'm just trying to wonder how much of it is being contributed to by construction related activities, stockpile aside, if the stockpile itself was running off, or if it was just the deteriorated condition of the existing parking lot surface, or if it's soil tracked by construction equipment, traffic, etc. in that area.
Yeah, we do not have any other disturbed work areas on that side of the property at this point. There was a detention basin that we put in that would have been kind of a disturbed area with exposed soils, but that's been seeded and germinated and is holding up pretty well.
It may be helpful.
Cassie, yeah, it would be
for me to
helpful
share the
if you could share
pictures.
your photos.
Yeah. Okay, hold on one second. Let me pull them up. Loading. Sorry, here we go. Okay. This first image, this is the stockpile that we were talking about. It has this silt fencing and then straw wattle on this side, and then these kind of barriers. Picture. Let's kind of closer look at this stockpile. The catch basin is to my rear and my left here, so it'd be like a ways down to the left, and get a picture of that area. This is looking back. The catch basin is more way over here to the right. So this is the front kind of coming down this way.
So it seems like there's a lot of material on the down gradient side of that siltation barrier.
Yeah, so I'll add that we did add a berm at the opposite side of that. You can't really see in the photo, to give that silt sack and that catch basin and more opportunity to collect water and hold it on site.
So these are a little out of order, but let's see. So this is the catch basin itself. That was an attempt at looking at the sack through that picture, but it's obviously not very easy to see what's going on in there. This is like kind of approaching the area. And so the stockpile is to the left over here. And this is where they have this kind of gravel berm. I believe that's the catch basin right there. And then there's silt fencing. And then that catch basin leads to an outlet that kind of is behind me in this picture and leads down this way. And this is kind of leading down further, ultimately towards the brook that's down there. This is the outlet itself.
Can you go back to the photo that kind of showed the catch basin with that shack in the background and just a little more landscape position? So,
This one?
yeah. So are there any supplemental measures that could be installed? Because it's not in the middle of the parking lot. So are there any supplemental measures that could be installed to kind of intercept runoff first before you maybe filter out some of that material before it's getting trapped into the silt sack device, so that is it possible to kind of pre-treat before the BMP?
Yeah, so I think one of the issues we've run into, certainly on this site, just given the how fine the fines are, is, you know, our filtration measures, you know, typical wattles and so forth aren't as effective as they might be on a normal site. Wattles, silt fence, we've done multiple layers in many areas, and that has certainly been more effective. And the other thing we've done is we've put flock logs in most of the structures, but that I think that's kind of a limited effect, but it's just that, you know, another thing we thought might help. But definitely in terms of pre-treating, we have been trying to do that and think it has been at least somewhat effective.
So Cassie, did you notice? I couldn't tell based on the photo of the outlet, the discharge point. Was there any sedimentation of the channel?
Well, so there's this, but I don't know how long that's taken to accumulate there. The outlet itself would be to the left of this image, kind of up this way. The outlet is right below me right here. Going down to where it meets the stream, I haven't noticed, like when basically we were at the other part where the turbidity curtain, like there's the road is in between these 2 points that are of concern, the point with the outlet with the turbidity curtain and then this catch basin. And so I didn't see, like it looked like that there was silty water entering the culvert nor exiting and reaching to where the turbidity curtain was either. So let me see, I should have a picture. Actually, this way. So this is the inlet of the culvert. And then it goes through, and on the other side is the outlet where the turbidity curtain is. It was really overgrown here, so it's kind of hard to get access. But that's kind of, you know, it certainly didn't look as turbid. I know that there's this sand built up here, but I don't know how long that's been there.
These culverts also don't have bottoms. I know.
Right.
You'd see obviously the stones.
Okay, so that's the bottoms have rusted out, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, these were not to be changed through the scope of work.
Right.
With these culverts.
Understood. And can you show photos of that turbidity curtain?
Yeah.
Cassie?
So the catch basin area is like behind me and to the left. This is kind of, there was an issue of like water leaving here, and they put all these curtains that seem to be catching it there. So this is the area up gradient of the where the turbidity curtain is. So you can see, like you said, there's been seeding happening. This is that area between the basketball court and the parking lot where it's like was freshly seeded. Let's see. So kind of, yeah, looking again a little further, more up gradient. This is immediately before the area where the outlet is. This is the outlet itself, and there was, you know, silty water leaving the outlet. You can kind of see it here and here, and then that leads to this turbidity curtain, which is, this is where the outlet is. That's the curtains that far, and then this is the curtain itself, and that this crease is where in some of the videos you could see it failing or, you know, overtopping at that point, but not, it basically the water is clear, and then here you can see it adding at this point, so it's not coming undermining it. You know, so it is on days where it's not a huge amount of rain, it seems to be functioning enough. But and they've already made an adjustment since the site visit, that they sent me a photo where they've raised it up much higher, because you know, this thing itself is 6 feet tall, and so they right now is at this point it's not super high off the surface of the water, and then by the time they changed it, it's more, I would say, up here, I guess, probably is roughly how high they raised it.
What has secured that at the stream bed? How is that secured at the bottom?
At the bottom, I think it's these boulders here replaced to kind of hold it in place.
I mean, you can certainly see that where it's working quite effectively. I mean, the water trap behind that, so the turbidity curtain is quite turbid looking. And do you have a close-up of the stream downstream of this, Cassie? Or could you?
Actually, I don't. Yeah, no, sorry. This is as close as far into the stream I went.
I know after when we added the turbidity curtain around that time, I think it was last April, we did walk the stream bed with the civil engineer to look for signs of sedimentation. And I think he produced a report for the commission at that time that basically said that he saw no signs of sedimentation. And I think the turbidity curtain, you're right, has been totally effective, but it's something that needs like near constant maintenance. We have to keep cleaning it, and like Cassie said, adjusting it. And the adjustment we made today gets it higher than we've had it in the past. And you know, it's been something that we've been constantly working on maintaining.
So any downstream transport of turbid water is where it's overtopped and not undermined or
if it's not
through.
If it's not overtopped, there's been a couple instances where we've seen it overtopped, but when it's not, we don't see any transmission of cloudy water. And you know, it's obviously, we've had 12 inches of rain this July and some real major storms, and it's held up really well. It's just been these couple hiccups here the past couple of weeks.
So do others have observations they care to share at this time?
I would just say, Melissa, that going back to the catch basin, it seems like there could potentially be some other losing the word, the round.
Like a supplemental.
Yes,
round?
thank you.
Barriers?
Yeah, yes, by the maybe at the base of that berm, which looks like it could itself be a potential source of sediment movement, or other places before you get to the catch basin that would help to trap some of that material and not be clogging the silt sock as frequently.
So if there were a supplemental barrier at that catch basin, which of the two locations that we've been discussing seems to be the bigger issue of the two? But Cassie, feel free to jump in and correct me if I'm mistaken or misspeaking. If there were a supplemental barrier installed, it's just the way that photo, it seems like it would be somewhat out of the way because the catch basin seems to be on the side of near the edge of the parking area travel corridor. Not sure what to call it there. If that were to redirect some of the flow that would normally go into that catch basin, what would the flow path be, and what would the BMPs at that down gradient point look like?
It would fill up that area quite quickly and back up towards the parking lot, but the downhill gradient is towards that gravel berm. That gravel berm that you see in the right of the photo there continues for probably 20 feet to the right in that picture, and water will collect and hold in that area and dissipate, which is kind of what we want to happen. That berm was originally erected to protect the slope. There's a downhill slope behind it that we were concerned about washout going down there. So that berm was put there to protect that slope. That slope has since been seeded. If I was more comfortable with the quality of the water, I'd be more comfortable letting it get beyond there and follow its course into there's a detention basin, a bioretention basin just on the other side of that berm. But I don't want, at this stage of construction where we still have, we're going to be doing a ton of work on that side of the site later on in the next phase. I don't know if I want to start introducing that kind of water into that bioretention basin. But what I do think we could do in the meantime is probably we have another catch basin on site that we've added a kind of a crushed stone barrier directly around with some wattles, just to give, like Ms. Pousa said, another chance for filtration before it gets to the catch basin. So that's probably where I would go next to try and shore up that area even more.
So is the flow in this image from top left to bottom right?
Yes.
Okay,
It slopes up to the left. Yeah, so the parking lot kind of area slopes up. The stockpile is to the left over here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Yes. And before, like Joel mentioned, it was kind of coming over here and flowing down. That's where they put in the series of silt fences. And right now, it does still kind of collect over here and then comes around and starts to go down the street and towards those other stormwater structures. And we have these other basins that are in the area. Oh, the wrong way. Hold on, sorry about that. So this is one of them. This is the other one. So it kind of comes around, it reaches these areas. The silt fences are kind of to the left here, the series of silt fences. Here they are. And then comes around. Those two basins are around the corner here. So the stream the outlet that I was looking at that's kind of in the woods is to my left, and the berm is behind me, the gravel berm.
So Cassie, based on your discussions with DEP and your site visit today, what are your recommendations?
Well, You know, so I guess I'm not sure what all the options are the commission has available to it. And main thing was having this kind of enforcement order as a mechanism to do this third-party review. I don't know if that is the only way to do it. I don't know if that's something the commission wants to pursue, is this third-party review. And I don't know if based off of these two situations, if the commission agrees that that's necessary at this stage. So yeah, I don't know.
If Cassie mentioned on site today that third-party review, if that's something the commission wants to do, we'll do that. We'll absolutely do that if that's something we want to investigate further. I think from our perspective, we were kind of shocked to hear that DEP was involved or that there were complaints going to DEP. We just, these two problems are problems, but I don't know that they rise to, it's not for us to say, I guess, but I don't know that they rise to the level that we're not doing what we're being asked to do or as everything that we can be doing. And but if a third party inspection is warranted, we're more than happy to engage in that, regardless of whether there's an order or not.
Cassie, who are the options? Do we know even who would be appropriately qualified options for this third-party review? And is there a requirement that they be like a CPESC or some other similar certification?
Ideally, they would have, you know, there is no like state certification, but there are like, you know, private certifications that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who has those certifications, I mean, when I spoke with Joel on the phone, I mean, there's a lot of people already working on this project who are from the area who would potentially do that. The only one I could think is potentially GZA might have someone who could do such a thing. That's all I could think off the top of my head. I know there's probably potentially others. Trying to think what else. Yeah,
I guess my question is kind of coming from, you know, it's not an unreasonable recommendation, you know, in a general sense. Who and how does that get put into action in an effective way is my question. So
how long before you can get somebody there to look at it?
Right. And, you know, frankly, I think I appreciate that recommendation, and I appreciate DEP's concern and the willingness of Fontaine Brothers to entertain pursuing that avenue, regardless of, you know, some form of requirement through enforcement action or other. I guess before we just cavalierly say that that's the solution we're going to pursue, I think I'd rather find out more about how we could that could be effectively implemented. You know, what resources are available, as Jay mentioned. How soon could you even get that qualified person to engage, and is it, you know, and provide their feedback and recommendations. I think we've discussed a few things this evening that could be implemented immediately within the next few days, this week.
Like the stone around the catch basin would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike already sent me a message and said we can do that in the morning.
Okay, so I mean, I don't know what the overnight forecast is.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've just resigned myself to the fact that it's going to rain forever. But
I wonder if it would make sense too. Potentially, I could, you know, reach out to DEP and have them do a site visit with me. Maybe once they saw in person the site, they'd be different. Understand? I don't know if that is something that you think would be appropriate, or.
I think I would like to. You know, I don't feel that any of this is for lack of effort. You know, I think there are a lot of things that sound feasible on paper that are hard to implement. I don't think that this has been swept aside as a non-issue or something that's not important. Clearly, supplemental measures have been implemented independently and based on recommendations. And it's a constantly changing site. We've had some rather severe precipitation events. I would like to see how things are by the weekend. We do seem to have, not that the solution is drier weather, but I think we do have a bit of a break coming up. So I'd like to see these supplemental measures installed as soon as possible. Unfortunately, like the next heavy rain is tonight.
Which should be done by midnight with any substantial rain.
So 12:01, Jack.
12:01, that's my guarantee.
Well, Cassie can attest to this. We've had crews out there at pretty much every hour of the night at some point or another over the course of the job.
Right.
I believe it. So
maybe like maybe a presentation at the next meeting of how things have worked, or
I mean, I'd like an update with photos, a bulleted list of what's been done and install the supplemental measures and photos, accompanying photos, I think by Thursday.
Absolutely.
Or sooner, if I know it's only Monday. And then I think we evaluate options. Cassie, if you could reach out to DEP or look into who, just for our own general knowledge, it may be necessary to discuss it further in the context of this project, or it may just be necessary in the future. But who is, what do those qualifications look like? And, are there any practitioners within a reasonable distance from Easthampton who could provide that kind of review, feedback, guidance?
I can do that. I can try to just get a list of places going, and then I always got in terms of the possible certification we want to look out for, one that was CPESC was noted, and then
certified
BESSWI.
A what?
CESSWI, which is Certified Erosion, Sediment, and Stormwater Inspector.
Right. And as you mentioned, these are private, I think these are, private organizations that provide education and certification opportunities. So
yeah, those are specifically from envirocert.org.
Right. CPESC and CESWI. Great.
Okay.
Okay. So for the time being, if anyone else has anything they'd like to add before we move on from this discussion, in summary, is implement the supplemental sedimentation and erosion controls that we discussed. Provide an update report to the commission no later than end of business Thursday with bulleted list of actions taken at each location and photographs supporting that, and we'll regroup based on that. Okay.
If I could just say thank you to the commission for giving us the opportunity to speak, and also for taking us out of order. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you for your time and efforts, continued efforts.
Yeah.
Good luck. And we'll
Thank
talk
you.
soon.
All
Thank
right,
you.
have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
You
you
as well.
Well,
All right. Moving to the next item out of order. Item 7U, Beacon Solar LLC, 50 Florence Road, Mass. DEP file number 151314 for the large-scale solar project, map 115, lots 2 and 5.
Oh, Commissioner August
Yes.
would like to.
I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner August.
I would need to recuse myself from Beacon Solar, but if you're short people, would I need to come in for a vote for anything? I'm not quite sure what we're going to be doing.
No, I'm not, well, there is no formal, there's
There
no
was-
hearing or meeting before the commission, so I think we can handle this without you having to unrecuse yourself.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
the applicant is seeking like administrative approval for this proposed minor change to the original plan.
So I guess in that event, if I could ask Commissioner Buttrick to tune in, I know he's still here.
Yes, I'm still here. And
Thank
listening.
you. All right, so I think that certainly helps if we're seeking to discuss some sort of administrative action. But with that aside, good evening.
Hi, my name's Brad Saunders. I'm with GEI Consultants and representing the Beacon Solar LLC. As the previous person said, I'd also like to thank the commission for taking this out of order and hearing this rather quickly. As we're starting to ramp up towards construction on this project, the contractor is beginning to purchase materials and things like that, and they've laid out on the site the locations for the utility poles for the overhead utility lines. And when they were doing that, they found that some of these lines, some of the poles will need guy wire supports, and the guy wire supports have to be anchored into the ground with anchors. And when they laid them out, they found that some of those anchors will not fit within the limit of disturbance line on the approved plans. And in some of those locations, the anchors would need to be located within 100 feet of the wetland or one of the wetlands on the site. So the question to the commission is whether or not these anchors can be installed and the guy wires within those locations where it would be within 100 feet of the wetland without further review by the commission. So in other words, if it could be done as a minor field change. None of these guy wire anchors will be located within 25 feet of a wetland. Most of them will be actually located within the right of way or within the limit of disturbance line. But we do have 11 specific locations where they would need to be located outside of the limit of disturbance line. And I sent a plan, I think on Friday, to Cassie that shows approximately the locations where these 11 anchors would be located. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has on this. And hopefully we can move forward.
And they're just
Kathy.
helical
Yeah,
anchors? Sorry, just helical anchors, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah.
So the disturbance associated with each one is, do you have an estimate of that? I understand these helical anchors tend to be considered minimal. Does this increase the limit of clearing?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect more than, say, 4 or 5 square feet. I mean, that's very,
Total
very
or
specific.
per anchor?
Per anchor.
Okay.
I can share the plan. I can share the plan that he sent me right now if you guys want to see that map.
Please.
Okay, hold on just a second. Hold on. Okay. A little bigger. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 11. The ones shown are the ones that are within the 100-foot buffer zone. But like you said, none are within 25 feet. And I can zoom in on anywhere.
I guess, can you zoom in on that cluster around, oh boy, down 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish, like just that general kind of sheet region.
Is that close enough, or I can do further?
No, I
Those
think
are
that's
clustered there because those two poles
angle.
the lower side of the road
Mhm.
have two guy wires associated with each. So that's why you have 7, 8, 9, and 10. Those are really two poles.
Is that because of angles or
Yes.
what's the?
Yeah, it's because of the angles.
Mhm. Okay.
And the dashed lines on these are the 100-foot setback boundary.
Mhm. And are they? So these are the pole locations, correct? Not the, or are those the guy locations?
Those are the guy anchor locations.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, all the poles are within the limit of disturbance line.
I'm inclined to think that this is pretty minor. But I'm interested in hearing others' thoughts on the matter.
I'm just thinking the helicals are going to not make much of a disturbance. It's whatever machinery you're going to have in there trying to install them, that would be the disturbance to me, but.
Yeah, and primarily that, any kind of equipment like that would be located within the limit of disturbance area.
Okay,
Reach over to install the helical.
right, I would hope so, yes.
Yeah,
So
these are buffer zone only, right? And I think
Mhm.
I could be wrong, but I think even DEP like makes allowances for helical anchors
They
in
do.
resource areas themselves, as really not having a footprint of long-term disturbance anyways. That seems pretty reasonable to me.
I think you may have already answered my question, but if they're going to be reaching over, there's no need to change any erosion controls or anything that's currently demarcating the limit of disturbance? You wouldn't be
That's
interested in
correct.
moving that?
Yeah. I mean, if need be, we can put some straw bales around the locations where they're going to be installed, but it is a very minimal, very short-term disturbance at each location.
Based on the fact that both DEP and the Corps under the Clean Water Act don't consider helical anchors to be fill because of their minimal disturbance, I am inclined in that direction. So I think the caveat that I would say is that all equipment, I would want all equipment associated with the installation of these guy wire anchors to be situated within the limits of disturbance.
That makes sense to me.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Anyone else? Michael, Jay?
I'm good.
All right, so we do need to make a motion to administratively approve the installation of storm guy anchors outside the limits of disturbance at 11 locations as shown on the, what's the date of the site plan, Cassie?
No, question. Hold on. It looks like, what is that? 8/8? Nope, that's the wrong one. Hold on. I know you sent it to me after 6/10. Do you think it's maybe?
Yes, I did not date this.
Okay.
Put this together Friday.
Yeah.
What was the date you received it?
On Friday, I believe, right? Yeah, so
August 20th?
Yeah.
Okay, as received by the commission on August 20th. Would anyone care to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. August recused, Busa,
Aye.
Buttrick,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Teffer absent, Whittemore.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good night.
You as well.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, moving on to the third out of order agenda item, 8B 32/50 Payson preliminary review. Cassie?
Nobody's
yeah.
solving my problems now.
I think you can go dark again, Mr. Buttrick.
Okay, all right.
So this is for a question that was raised about Rubber Thread Pond, which is behind 32/50 Payson. It's in between the Rubber Thread Pond that is Williston and the Nashawanic Pond. And the question is, does that pond have riverfront area associated with it? There's been past permitting for it, for 32 Payson for the safety complex that they did. And it actually, that permitting was completed right before or around the same time that the riverfront area part of the act was added. So it's not on those plans. I don't know if it would have been. I will note that the pond is shown on the USGS topographic map as a named pond, specifically just this middle part, not the other two. And also that, no, that's the main thing for defining a pond is we're gonna hold on a second. Oh.
I was reaching out of screen. Sorry.
It's okay. So Jeff was able to work with GZA to look at the area, and specifically because they're trying to see if it would be feasible to potentially put in a pocket skate park behind the safety complex / near 50 Pace in the municipal offices. And that also had kind of generated the questions of like what potential permitting would be needed going forward for that. And if maybe even an RDA would be necessary for figuring out, what jurisdictional areas apply here. Or if there's maybe something in the past precedent that's showing, or based off of GZA's findings, if that's necessary. So I guess I'll turn it over to Jeff or Joe, whoever wants to go.
I'll just say something really quick. Thank you, Cassie. I think that was a fair introduction. And Joe Rogers and Patrick Lord from GZA are here too. And just a quick one step back is that, there's a group of people in Easthampton who have been asking and talking about the potential for creating a skate park in Easthampton. And we've been exploring a couple different sites. And we started at Nonotuck. Currently the position is that the Parks Department, it will not entertain a skate park in Nonotuck. And so we were also looking at the new school, coincidentally, your topic of your first discussion. And there are some sites that are kind of less, they might come up again, but during that time of kind of just looking at some sites, we looked at the back of 50 Payson, and with the mayor's permission to do a little bit of due diligence, where the planning department is spending a little bit of this money alongside the skate park group to have GZA take a look. We wanted to try to understand from the commission whether you would have any opinions or could guide us on whether it's riverfront, if it has riparian characteristics, because that will pretty much eliminate us from moving forward. But if it's a buffer, we want to maybe take additional steps. I did want to say that we're not prepared and we're not ready to present a plan for a skate park. We're really just at this very kind of early stage of just trying to figure out if it's even going to be viable as a location. And that's why GZA has been great to kind of pick up this small project for us. And I think with that, maybe if the commission will entertain it, I think Joe and Patrick, one or both of them went to the site and looked at, the characteristics, and we wanted to get your feedback on helping us understand what you think it is and the permitting path that we might look at in the future. So Ms. Cody, if that makes sense, maybe Joe or Patrick could say a couple words about what they looked at.
Sure.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thanks. And Pat is going to kind of fill in his approach to how we went about kind of looking through the checklist of what the possible resource areas on the site were. And kind of we put together a memo to kind of support our findings in part of this discussion. But as Jeff said, this is really at a point of discussion that could lead into a permitting pathway for either an RDA or, as he said, most likely not a notice of intent. But Pat has some information to share.
Yes, thank you, Joe, and thank you for commission members for entertaining this. So we did an initial kind of desktop review of the area, and we looked at national heritage, vernal pools, excuse me, rare species, see if those that area fell into this area. We also looked at the 100-year floodplain, which was absent. If I just back up a little bit, there was no national heritage species or outstanding water resources or areas of critical environmental concern in this area. So we also looked at, the current USGS map, and as Casey stated, it is a named water body as a pond. So based on that, we did a site visit. There was an obvious break between the upland and the water body. So that was an obvious bank of the water body. Visual observations of the pond itself, there was no observable flow through the pond. Tried to locate the outlet pipe between Rubber Thread Pond and Mashawannock Pond, and that appeared to be submerged. So therefore, it led me to believe that there's an equalizing area between the Rubber Thread Pond and Mashawannock Pond. So based on those observations and understanding of the 310 CMR 10.581H, that states a water body identified as a lake, pond, or reservoir on the current USGS map, or a more current map provided by the department, is a lake or pond. So therefore, the riverfront area would not apply to this water body.
So with that in mind, we tried to challenge our assumption based on the USGS map that was calling this a pond, to see if we could find any reason why it could be called a river or riverfront, because there is a river upstream and up gradient, and in this case, all of the equalizer submerged culverts, the lack of flow within the pond, all the bullet points that Pat went through kind of led us to believe that there's no reason to overturn the presumption in our minds that this is a pond, and therefore we delineated bank on the site and provided the attached site map. So with that recommendation in mind, knowing that this is not in an RDA format, we wanted to kind of discuss this with the commission to see if anyone on the commission has had any conversations, any past knowledge about other projects that came forward before you, any reasons why this doesn't sit right with you, in order to kind of decide, whether to move forward with the project in proposing this work as an RDA, to both get your official concurrence that you agree that this is bank and buffer zone project, as well as the eventual permitting of the work itself. And in part of this step is just to, prevent the costs involved in going through that process more than once.
Well, I guess I appreciate that you went through that exercise, and I agree that where the regs, the definition, was it 1058 2A1H, that clearly states when a water body is identified as a lake, pond, or reservoir, it is, unless we determine it has primarily riverine characteristics. And based on unrelated observations of the condition of that water body Saturday, I would say that it is definitely lacking in unidirectional flow.
It's a high duckweed content at the moment.
It's glowing green in the sunlight. So I personally don't see that reach, the impounded reach, maintains any riverine characteristics. And further supporting that is the fact that it is the impoundment that is named on a USGS topographic map, and I'm not aware of any more recent map that would trump that. I think also, Cassie, if I'm not mistaken, the impoundment up gradient of that within Williston's campus has also been treated as a pond and not a perennial stream.
Are you asking me or are you telling me? Sorry.
I'm hoping someone can support my recollection.
That was a big part of it for me, was like just historically how it's been treated, if that was the case. Because I remember when we were talking about the rubber thread pond in the Williston area, they had been asking about doing some work near that, like that pedestrian bridge, and it had been mentioned that might be RFA. So I just wanted to make sure in that regard.
I think we'd have to go back and look at this. And I think in my mind, I've always considered them as upper and lower rubber thread ponds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure where that came from. But I think there's certainly a plausible argument to be presented that it's not subject to riverfront area. And I don't think we need to twist ourselves into knots over that either, unless someone on the commission cares to speak up with an opposing argument.
I would agree that it is decidedly non-riverine.
Okay. So then the question is, what about activities within 100 feet of it? And I would say that would depend on the nature and extent of construction and period disturbance and change in site characteristics, and how that compares to existing conditions, particularly relative to stormwater management, and how that, if there are increases in impervious area, how does that get managed? And if there's any, I don't know the area you're talking about behind the public safety complex, but
I think there's a detention basin behind. There's a parking. There's the public safety building, and then there's a kind of a loading dock area, and then there's a row of parking, and then there's a detention basin, and then it narrows down to kind of, there's a couple sheds, and the city stores some trailers over there, and so we haven't taken any additional steps. But I appreciate this. I appreciate what GZA has done so far. I mean, it's kind of a small project, so I'm really appreciative that they would help us with a small project like this. I guess just for clarity, what you just said, Ms. Cody, was that if we decide to keep moving forward, then the permitting path would either be an RDA or an NOI, because what we would do from here, based on, I mean, my hope is what I heard was that we don't need to do anything else to determine the status of the pond, and that was really the guidance we were hoping for, because that kind of sets us up to potentially engage, whether it's GZA in a combination or someone to help us look at the shape and any opportunities for even fitting a skate park here. And then move from that real schematic design to a permitting, level drawing or, set of drawings that would go forth for permitting. So, we don't know if we're even going to make it there, which is kind of why I wanted to take this baby step here first.
No, I think that's wise. And no, I don't think that there needs to be any formal determination of resource area boundaries, even under an RDA at this location. And I guess in general, where there is a vegetated strip along the resource area boundary, such as there is here, I would hope that any future projects in this area or an area like this could avoid impacts to that forested buffer.
Yeah, I hear that. I think there's the forested buffer and some section of grass that would definitely stay. And then it's what could we kind of squeeze out. Just for people who saw the map, I did want to just say that there's a driveway for the public safety complex, and the early vision is that we might try to carve in a retaining wall against the driveway to get a little more space away from the wetlands. But all that's really yet to be totally explored, but that we would be envisioning a buffer of some sort along the pond, so that makes sense.
I think I don't know, it may just be interesting to review historic aerials of the area, but my understanding is that impoundment there used to not be that kind of farmer's market parking lot on the backside of the municipal office building that actually used to be part of the impoundment. So, I think we're a far cry from anything natural back here, but it has been status quo for a while, and that forested area does provide some habitat function and value.
Mhm.
So, great. Is there anything else you need from us this evening then?
Thanks. Thank you for having a look and your consideration, and we'll let you know what the next steps are.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you all
Good
for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Cassie, are we going back to agenda order now?
Yes.
Back to the
So-
beginning.
Yep.
Based on that, I'm going to, will you confirm that has there been a request for continuation of the public hearing for the notice of intent filed by Lathrop Community Inc. at 100 Bassett Brook Drive, map 104, lot 2 for improvements to existing trail network?
Yes, they're requested to continue.
So our next meeting is September 13th.
13th. Yep.
At 6 p.m. Does anyone care to make that motion to
I'll
continue?
make that motion. September 13th, 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. August,
Aye.
Busa,
Aye.
Patrick abstain, Ryan,
Aye.
Teffer absent, Whittemore,
Aye.
motion carries. We have no request for certificates of compliance. Are there any updates on enforcement actions to address this evening, Cassie?
Yes, I spoke with Mr. Cernak. Watching the minutes from the last meeting, there was a point that has come up that, spring has come and gone and we did not do an update. And I've been talking to him for other reasons. But I called him and we set up a site visit for Wednesday, September 1st at 10 a.m. to review the plantings, see the status of them, see how they're coming in. Just generally get a kind of updated report. When I spoke to him on the phone, he said he would speak to his daughter. I feel terrible that her name escapes me right now, but that's who we've primarily been communicating with in the past regarding.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so he would speak to her in advance of the meeting as well.
Okay.
So hopefully at the next meeting, I'll have an update and pictures and things to share.
Excellent. All right. Any other updates on enforcement actions?
No updates.
All right. Any updates regarding open space?
Yes. So I had mentioned that I was in talks with Land Stewardship Inc. in the past in terms of trying to create an updated plan for how to go forward, considering the amount of time that's passed since the last action was taken. It was really good. She reached out to me recently on the 19th of this month with just an email saying like she has a really good clear path forward. It has a lot more information in it. I can, if you guys haven't had a chance to look at it beforehand, I can read it to you if you like. But the majority, it was just an email, so there's no formal new plan has yet been submitted. And I can certainly update you when that happens. And I can read this one if you like.
Well, who is the contact person again?
It's
you say?
Jessica Applin, who is different from the original person. The original person who made the very original plan is no longer working with Land Stewardship Inc.
Okay. Does anyone care to hear a detailed update on the plan? Can you kind of give us like a high level?
Yeah, here, hold on.
Is it the same general approach as before? Which
So,
is
it is, but they're thinking like the big thing was that they're thinking to redo the there has been like a treatment that was done in the past. So let's see. So they came in and did an initial cut stem treatment in the past, but the town was supposed to subcontract the mowing that came after that to prepare the site for foliar treatment. Since that didn't happen, they couldn't come in and do the foliar work in an effective way that would meet the budget. So now they really need to come back. You know, a lot of the shrubs have gotten the shrubs that were small at the time have gotten bigger, and the bittersweet has really come up onto the trees again and has started to cover stuff. So they want to do another cut stem treatment and then do the mowing that was originally planned. And then the other part of it, let's see, foliar sequence. So it's going to be like the work is going to be a little bit more because the density and size of everything seems a bit more intense than before from her assessment. And let's see, the other thing was, the other big part of it is the tree removal. The trees, so there's the existing like old orchard trees that are on site. And I was able to talk with Russell from the Park Hill Orchard, and he had the biggest concern, you know, because they can be a disease hazard for his orchard. And also, you know, so the fruit that they're producing is not necessarily fruit that could be, you know, people could necessarily come and eat from them because they're not being pruned and like maintained properly. So it's not necessarily like they've been or will be bearing like fruit that people could eat. There are a few trees that are near the actual community garden itself that he's agreed, you know, that people have been taking it upon themselves to maintain those. And he says just having a few trees is not a disease risk, but the majority of them should probably come down. And she mentioned that those can really come down at any time and won't really be a problem for the treatments that she's suggesting here. So for me moving forward, I'm waiting for her official like proposal, and then I'd like to move forward in figuring out the mowing. That'll be the second stage after the cut stem treatment, because that's kind of where it got stalled last time. Because I think that part came about right in the transition, like before I got started. That's probably why it got stalled.
to be fair, I think things have stalled out several times.
Yeah. Oh no,
over the
that
course
too.
of this-
Yeah.
this
Yeah, that too. It's been
effort.
hard for me to get it started back up and do it right. So.
And I think one of the early stumbling blocks was we obtained quotes for tree removal, I think, and or mowing. I'm not sure where the wheels fell off there, but one of the issues was putting it out to soliciting quotes or putting it out to actual bid. I can't remember which, but the bid that came back wasn't at prevailing wage, which was a requirement that we need to just make sure that however we move forward, we, maybe vet it out with the procurement officer.
We never got out of that loop. We were always stuck in that loop of,
Right.
Right. No, yeah, it makes sense. And, talking to Mike Owens, the procurement officer, I remember, I guess it's probably like a year ago now when I was trying to get it sorted out again. He was saying like, if we can keep the cost below a certain level, we might not even have to do that whole going to bid process. Not sure exactly if that would be, if we could keep it under that cost or not. So it's something hopefully can be a part of what gets figured out. But
So if Russell and I wanted to mow that, would the city allow us to work on city property without insurance or anything like that?
Well, that's a good question, because Russell had mentioned that as well, that he'd probably be willing to help, and, at least that was my understanding. So I don't know how that comes into play. And so that's something I talked to Mike Owens about and be like, yeah, can it be done volunteer? Can it be done? I don't know. I don't know if Russell said that he would necessarily do it for free or if it would be, whatever, but.
And then I think there were issues with equipment functioning properly, breaking down, and further delaying our ability to at least entertain that generous offer.
Mhm. I see.
Is there a reason why the mowing can't be done first so that we can ensure that we don't wind up with the same situation we did last time?
Looking at her email, and I don't know. I can ask.
It seems like it might be easier to organize everything if we could do the mowing first and then have them do both of their treatments.
Yeah.
When can I
There may
start?
be a good reason why they don't want to do that. I can't remember. What was that, Jay?
When can I start?
Yesterday.
It's a little wet. I don't want to get buried.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe later this week.
That's something I will ask Jessica and see what she has to say. Because yeah, if that might, I think that's a really good point. If we can avoid doing this cut stem treatment potentially, and then have it start this kind of clock to get the mowing. If we can get the mowing sorted out first, that seems to be the biggest stumbling block. Essentially, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I had for open space. So yeah, I'll reach out to her and let y'all know next meeting what the deal is.
Okay. All right. Are there any other compliance updates are we ready to move on? Sorry.
I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
If everyone else is.
Are there any other compliance updates to note?
Yeah, just a few. So
Okay.
one is for Lathrop Community, 100 Bassabrook Drive. This is for file number 151-283, which is the invasive management work, which
Mhm.
already has a permit. They just sent a notification on the 19th of this month that Land Stewardship Inc. Did work on the 20th on the East Campus for string trim of the Japanese stilt grass. And then next week, and she didn't have a determined date yet, so that would be this week. They're going to be doing management of the North Campus for Japanese knotweed and Japanese stilt grass. So just an update of where that work is at and what's being done for it.
Okay.
If there's no questions, I'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Next one was for the National Lake Pond, file number 151-288, which is for aquatic vegetation management, using the herbicide and the algicide. All the pre-treatment requirements were met. That all went fine. I just want to let you all know that I got the post-treatment reports. Those all look normal. Let's see. The next one is for Whitebrook Broadbrook, file number 151-268, which is for the maintenance dredging. They are ready to come for their certificate of compliance. I received the request for it. They scheduled a site visit for August 31st at 9 a.m. At the site, if anyone wants to come to that. And looking at the order of conditions, there were not any special requirements for the certificate of compliance beyond what's normal, but it didn't have any no as-built or anything like that are required for the certificate of compliance. So the
Okay.
site visit is the main element.
And do you anticipate that will be on the September 13th agenda? Or
Yeah,
you have yet
yes.
to-
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We already addressed the school. We already addressed 50 Florence. That was the only thing I had. Those are the only things I had for ongoing project updates,
Okay.
compliance updates.
All right.
we
Moving
have
on
general-
to
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say we have general business, then you were saying it. So.
Can I ask a question?
please.
Did we clear up the issue of the seemingly missing stormwater reports from last time? You may have just
yeah.
said that and I missed it.
So what I was going to talk about for actually makes sense specifically for River Valley. everyone else I checked up with, and I apologize that that document was not working for people the way it was supposed to, and that people weren't able to access all the other files and reports. The new one that I sent out has Google Drive, and we just switched over at the beginning of this week to all those things. So it took me a while to get it all in order, but hopefully it's like a lot less confusing and things are like structured in a better way. And that's on the general business. We can talk about that more later. But I did want to specifically bring up for the River Valley project. They do have a gap in reporting, and the reason is because they got to the point where they were, you know, the work was completed and they didn't think they had to keep reporting. And I emailed them otherwise, but the communication has been an issue. I spoke with Jeff Squire today about that, and he said, you know, he's going to reach out to Right Builders again and see what they can figure out. They were really close to getting a suspension of reporting. I want to say on the meeting of the 26th of July, probably. I think that's when it was. But they still were doing some work with the solar panels and the battery pads. There was that one stockpile that was still there.
Yeah, we specifically said they could not suspend reporting.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. So we didn't issue that, but still haven't received a report. And so still trying to get that squared away, unfortunately. So I apologize, it kind of got put back, and since the site wasn't as active, it's really partially my bad, I'd say, for like not having those reports. So, but I'm in communication with them, trying to get it sorted out. Any post report, the previous SWIP reports that they've been doing, which not sending my way, I'm going to try to get those, and then at least get just a new report for the condition of the site generally, and go from there. And then encourage them to seek out their certificate of compliance since they're almost completed anyway. So, but yeah, so part of wrapped into that was that issue with not being able to access the files. So I apologize for that also.
Thanks, Cassie. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, let's move on to general business. Meeting minutes. We have 2 meetings worth, July 26th and August 9th. Who was our quorum on July 26th? August, Busa. Let me open those up again. Was I here?
Yeah, it was. Most people were there. It was Melissa, Dan, Jay, Julie,
Okay,
Michael, Deb, and Amy. So everyone was there, I guess.
great. So is there a motion to accept the meeting minutes of August 26th?
Motion
Deb,
to
you had
approve.
previously mentioned, sorry,
July
Deb,
26th.
Go ahead, go ahead.
July 26th. Is
Yeah, motion to approve the minutes from July 26th.
there a second?
second,
Okay, all those in favor, roll call vote. August,
Aye.
Busa,
Aye.
Patrick, abstain, Ryan,
Aye.
Teffer, absent, Whittemore?
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting minutes of August 9th.
Do you want me to know? Let's see who was there. We had, only person absent was Amy Teffer.
Amy,
Okay.
motion to approve the minutes from August 9th.
Second.
Is there
second,
a second? Roll call vote. August,
Aye.
Busa,
Aye.
Patrick, abstain, Ryan,
Aye.
Teffer, absent, Whittemore?
Aye.
Motion carries. Jumping ahead, Liberty Street vegetation removal.
That was behind One Cottage Street. And so we got an email about it, and I did a site visit, took some pictures the day of. The question was, is it a violation? I can share the pictures now, and I did some digging in the past files for that area. I wasn't able to find any kind of like management plan that was tied to some permits that might be like a thing into today for why they took that action. So hold on, I can share the picture. So yeah, really the question is it in violation and should we take action? So this is basically the vegetation clearing that happens. So it's along each side of the kind of canal here. I'm standing on the bridge that they got a permit for, a while ago. And I didn't see anything in any kind of like management plan for the bridge permit that was, something like this. I know that there was a past concern about a snow violation from snow getting pushed into this area.
Yeah, pushing snow into it was a problem.
But they put up this barrier that should prevent that. So
Yep.
that didn't have anything about vegetation management in it either. And then a lot of the other files were for different areas, like for a couple greenhouses, or they got an RDA to do work inside this, but the limit of work did not extend beyond this part of the channel. It was more the interior and underneath the building in the parking lot. And then let's see, just to show, this is kind of like it was pretty, I'm assuming it was pretty vegetated before. This is the other side.
I'm wondering if there is some sort of periodic vegetation management happening there, because you were there and seeing it with your own eyes, Cassie. So does what appeared to be cut consist of herbaceous and vines, or does it appear to be woody? Are those stumps?
I feel like there maybe were some shrubs. I don't think there were necessarily trees removed, though I do see some potentially like stump-ish shrub material. Let's see if I can. So this, I don't know how recently that was.
Yeah, so that suggests that it's not that frequent, depending on what the species was. What is that growing on the utility pole? Could you tell?
I can't tell. I didn't get closer, unfortunately, for that.
Okay.
There's definitely bittersweet in that corridor. You could see a lot of it on the intact side.
Yeah.
Photo.
The other question, can you go back to the original view?
Do we know
I'm sorry,
who's
the
doing it?
photo.
Oh,
That showed
sorry.
both sides
Oh,
of the channel?
yeah, hold on. It's messed up when I zoom like that. Okay, so this is not the original look of it, but it is the other side of the bridge.
Right, but what I'm saying is I don't think that area was ever that robust.
Okay.
Based on a very vague recollection from periodic site visits over the years. So if you go to the view upstream, that showed both sides of the channel. So, yeah. Ooh.
There you go.
Thanks. So yeah, it looks like they cut some woody stems to the left of that solo traffic cone.
Right.
So, Cassie, could you reach out to whoever's in charge of things at Riverside Industries these days?
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
And
What I'm doing
just,
right now,
sorry.
I'm just pulling up on Google Street View. Might be able to actually get a view of what it looked like before. Oh, it's in the winter. It's in the fall, but
Well, that's okay.
actually, hold on. Share screen. So it looks like, yeah, there's probably some larger stems there. So yeah, I can reach out to the property owner.
That would be great. And I think that would be a good first step. Understand where they're coming from and explain the interests of the act and jurisdiction, and they may have some concerns, or it may just be aesthetics. I don't know, but it would be good to understand where they're coming from.
Right. Okay. And are there any actions you want them to take now at this point, or?
I'd say to be determined.
Okay.
You know, did you see any suggestion, any indication that the area was unstable?
No, because it all did seem to be cut right a little above flush, it looks like, based on what
Yeah.
the stumps were. You know, it's still like pretty green there.
Okay, so. I would say let's just get an understanding of what transpired and what their practices have been in the past and regroup based on that.
Okay. I'll see if it's like a routine maintenance thing.
Okay, is there any further discussion of in perpetuity conditions?
So the only thing, last time I said I was going to research, you know, how other communities tackle this. We didn't make any determinations on the 26th about how we wanted to take this going forward. I mean, we don't have any, it'll become more of a pressing issue with our next order of conditions that we issue, because we'll need to determine like, how do we want to word this? This in perpetuity condition, do we want to have some kind of like permitting requirement going forward? And one of the things was I was going to reach out to other communities, and I've only heard back from Hampton thus far, and they do not do in perpetuity invasive management except for Smith College. They do it for Smith College because they know that institution like isn't going anywhere, and like they have like an established relationship with them. But they found that they don't have, you know, the amount of follow-up that would be needed is a lot for them to take on, in terms of either getting a report each year or checking on them themselves to make sure that it's actually happening.
Okay.
And that's really, you know, I do think that the invasive management piece of it is really important, and we should require invasive management, but it is hard thinking grand scale. Could end up with a lot, you know. I'm thinking like in 2030, how many reports am I going to be getting a year, you know, about their invasive managements? How much time should I go out and confirm them? It's just, it could be a lot accumulating over time.
So I think what that partially suggests to me is that we should, you know, focus on the life of the permit, and also, you know, if there is a long-term, or if there's a riverfront area improvement, then perhaps we should not make it a practice to not consider invasive species removal in and of itself an improvement, because it is so short-term.
Yeah, and that was a thing for a separate project, not even in Easthampton, that, because I'm the agent in Bernardston too. They were having they proposed invasive management as a mitigation to work. And one of the comments from DEP was, you know, this will need to be conditioned in perpetuity. And as a result, they changed their mitigation to be something to increase the riverfront area. And it was, I think, ultimately a better mitigation that was received, because they wanted to change their plan to avoid having to do the in perpetuity invasive management. So sometimes that can be, well, you can either do this type of mitigation or you have to do this in perpetuity. So that could still be like a tool for trying to determine mitigation potentially. I don't know. But.
I wonder if there might be a middle ground where we don't necessarily have to stick to the life of the permit, but we don't have to do in perpetuity. So like what we're seeing at the orchard site of ours, there's typically a recommended approach for a multi-year program to manage invasives. So maybe we enforce, you know, having a plan, having it accepted, and then following through with that plan, whatever it is, if it's a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan, but we don't necessarily make it in perpetuity. That doesn't solve the problem of things coming in from off the site, but it would at least give you a solid management base for within the site.
Yeah, and depending on the site, I think import on equipment or other materials is a concern in the short term versus the long term.
think that makes sense. Yeah, I like that middle ground idea, because I hate to just not do anything, but doing it in perpetuity is logistically a cumulative problem potentially.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, cool.
All right. So new Google file sharing system.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know if any of you all are familiar with Google Drive or using that system. In theory, the way it should work is that you just need to click on the links as before, and it just takes you right to it. You shouldn't have to like ask for permission or anything like that. I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to, if you had any questions about it, I can show you all like quickly if you'd like. Basically, all the links that I sent you in my email were using the Google Drive. So if you use those,
It all works.
okay, good. And then the ongoing project document, which I know I only sent today, so you might not have had a chance to see.
Those didn't work.
They didn't work?
Those are the ones, all the ones in the email, we're able to get to all the drawings and everything, but the few I tested in the Word document, those still didn't work. So I was going to play with some firewall things tomorrow and see if it's on my side that's protecting me from you or what.
That's interesting. And yeah, again, I apologize if that issue was happening last time too, and I didn't realize it had been happening. I will see if maybe there's a better way for me to share this. Maybe I can just have it just be a part of the Google Drive. It's nice in this Word document because I can have like the explanation to go along with it.
Right.
If this is a tool that people aren't really using, then it's okay. Like if this isn't helpful, I tried to like have it just, I'm highlighting the parts. I want you to have everything available to you each meeting in case something comes up that I didn't anticipate that we'd talk about. And then it's like, oh, everyone can go take a look at the files if they want now that we're talking about it. But, and then I highlight the parts that actually have something that I planned to talk about. But
whenever I open a Word document that comes from City Hall, I get some danger script removed thing. So I'm thinking maybe that's part of what's being removed. Maybe the hyperlink is getting trimmed in my Word document. But let me play with it tomorrow again, and I'll email you or something. But everything that came to the emails all worked great.
okay, cool. Well, I'll explore also just anyways another way of doing it as opposed to this Word document.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's the problem, then there's got to be another way to do it. So.
Well, that you could just email this and it'd probably be in the body of an email, and it seems like that would work. But let me go one step further.
All right, cool. Thank you for looking at.
No problem.
Anybody else have any questions just generally about Google Drive, or everyone's able to access those things? Okay, so and two, feel free to reach out outside of this meeting too. If anyone wants me to do a little tutorial with them, I'm happy to do it.
Thanks, Cassie.
Okay.
So anything else?
I had one more thing.
And there's no more things.
I know. This one's really, really quick. And I just wanted to ask, would everyone be okay if we did like a share of everyone's contact information with all the other commissioners too? So that people.
Not a problem.
Okay. I didn't know if anyone would have an issue with that. And if you do, you can reach out to me separately if you feel that way, which is fine. But I thought maybe I would establish that on the drive as well. And I just want to make sure people are cool with that.
I think we've done that by email before, where we sent around all of our phone numbers, but honestly, I don't know where it is at this point.
I have them for part of the MACC sign up as everyone gives me their updated info, but I haven't shared it with everyone else. That's the key difference, is everyone else would have access to it. I mean, the commissioners, not the general public.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Okay. All right. Are we at the end?
That's really it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, August,
I
Fusa,
Aye.
Buttrick abstain, Ryan,
Aye.
Teffer absent, Whittemore,
Yeah, I.
motion
Having-
carries.
Having so much fun.
Thank you all. See you on the 13th.
All right. Good night.
Everyone,
Night.
night.
I
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Cassie.